see me?
Yes, we can see you and here, Will.
Okay, great.
We'll see you all.
All right, fantastic. Good morning, everybody. My name is Beverly Ebersold, and for those of you who don't know me or USICH, I'm the director of their National Initiatives team, which is a team of us who are out in the field and that do work for the U.S. Interagency Council on Homelessness. Just a little bit about USICH. We're actually made up of 19 federal agencies that are committed to and relentlessly working towards the goals of opening doors. Sorry, I'm getting a little bit of feedback, or a lot of feedback.
Okay, we're not hearing your feedback.
Okay. Great. So we're all working towards, I know that, I think it was Brenda that was referencing the federal strategic plan, opening doors, and agencies like the Department of Veterans Affairs and the Department of Labor, along with HUD and HHS and Education. We all work very, very closely. Since President Obama launched Opening Doors, which is our nation's first plan to prevent and end homelessness, we know more than ever before about what it will take to end homelessness in our country. And we really honestly must seize the opportunities that are in front of us right now. One of the things I want to talk a little bit about is, our shared goals are to end homelessness among veterans, among families, among youth, and among those experiencing chronic homelessness, and ultimately among all Americans. What's important to note about that is an end to homelessness does not mean that no one will ever experience a housing crisis again. Changing economic realities, the unpredictability of life, and unsafe or unwelcoming family environments may create situations where individuals, families, or youth could experience or be at risk of homelessness. An end to homelessness means that every community will have a systematic response in place that ensures homelessness is prevented whenever possible or is otherwise rare, brief, and a non-reoccurring experience. Specifically around that, every community will have the capacity to quickly identify and engage people at risk of and experiencing homelessness, to intervene to prevent the loss of housing and divert people from entering the homelessness services system, to provide immediate access to shelter and crisis services without barriers to entry while permanent stable housing and appropriate supports are being secured. And when homelessness does occur, quickly connecting people to housing, assistance, and services tailored to their unique needs and strengths to help them achieve and maintain stable housing. A huge focus of my team's work right now is to help every community understand and take action around what it will take to end veteran homelessness, so that every community, again, in America has a system in place to make sure that veteran homelessness is rare, brief, and non-reoccurring. I actually, part of my work is to lead the interagency process through which communities are confirmed for ending veteran homelessness. So that's for some of you in the room. I think hopefully you've seen in the press, and it was mentioned, our reduction in veteran homelessness. This is communities come forth to get federal confirmation that they have achieved a goal, created an effective system, and are quickly, sometimes in 24 days, placing people into housing. So around our work around veteran homelessness, communities across the country are really continuing to build and strengthen effective and efficient systems to make sure that this is happening. And we're really continuing to engage all communities in driving towards the goal. And that means that communities who have achieved the goal can actually sustain the goal with the systems that they've so painstakingly built. Where we've been profiling and sharing successful practices from communities that achieved the goal as models for other communities. And I certainly encourage everyone to take a look at some of those case studies. And they include some clear best practices, such as using data to drive the results, housing first approaches, and again, moving people quickly into housing. One of the top lessons that we've learned, I think that's really important in our success with ending veteran homelessness, is the importance of a clear definition criteria and benchmarks on what it means to end homelessness. And these tools have provided us a shared understanding of the outcomes we're driving toward and what it means to end homelessness. So an end to veteran homelessness, like I said, is something that must be maintained through an ongoing system of response to homelessness and housing crises for all veterans. And reaching this goal has not been about crossing a finish line of a race, but about building up and maintaining a level of performance. And the only way for a community to know if that level of performance has been achieved is if a community continues to assess it. So again, it's not a one-and-done test, but something communities they should be using to measure success and for themselves. We recognize that communities have very unique attributes and will meet the goal in different ways. And so when we created the benchmarks and criteria on veteran homelessness, it was our best thinking at the time. And we continue after we've been reviewing these to learn more and further strengthen that work to evaluate the effectiveness of the criteria. I think what's really important also is that this has allowed us, for what I like to say sometimes is because of the success, it's allowed us a proof point to move forward with other populations. So in addition to our work on ending veteran homelessness, USICH has some other key priorities this year and moving forward, and one of them includes the job of ending chronic homelessness. We know what it takes to end long-term homelessness among those with disabilities and complex health conditions, and the answer is really simple. It's permanent supportive housing. And in order to see an end to chronic homelessness, USICH is continuing to assist states and communities to fully realize the opportunities to coordinate Medicaid and housing resources and take supportive housing to scale. We're also strengthening practices for identifying and providing effective outreach to individuals with complex healthcare needs, and also ensuring that communities have the tools they need to prioritize those with the most complex needs for housing and services opportunities that are available. So we have actually released, it's been time goes by, I think maybe a couple of months, and that we've actually released some criteria and benchmarks on ending chronic homelessness and some strategies to work with that. And I'd certainly be happy to forward some of those resources to John so he can share with the community. Additionally, on chronic homelessness, we've been really working to encourage and support the President's call in his fiscal year 2017 budget for the resources we need to create additional units of permanent supportive housing to end homelessness for this population once and for all. During this year, we're also continuing to implement strategies that build upon family connection, which is the vision for a system in which every family has access to housing and services to address their needs, including support of the President's budget for $11 billion in mandatory funding over 10 years, along with some short-term discretionary funding to provide communities with the housing assistance needed to achieve and sustain the end of homelessness for families with children. We're providing direction to communities on how to strengthen coordinated entry systems, especially to more fully engage mainstream agencies and programs into their systems. Again, also sharing best practices for implementing rapid rehousing and coordinated crisis response systems. This includes strengthening partnerships at the state and local level between homeless assistance and mainstream programs like TANF, schools, early childhood, child welfare systems, and others. And we're also working to ensure that efforts to end family homelessness address the needs of families experiencing domestic violence. Additionally, this is really a critical year for spurring greater momentum in our efforts to end youth homelessness. And last year, we released a vision for what a coordinated community response to youth homelessness looks like. And currently, you'll begin to start seeing some additional tools and guidance that strengthen communities' capacity to implement such coordinated responses. One of the key things around our youth work, but also goes to all of the populations, is really making sure that we're improving data collection and providing guidance regarding the use of different data sources to ensure we have the full understanding and scale, particularly the problem of youth homelessness. But I will say that on the veteran side of things, it really has been the data integration that has allowed us to drive some of the system results, and being able to track that. Communities have been able to, like I said, New Orleans, I'll use them as an example, who, as part of the criteria and benchmarks, they should be moving people quickly into housing within 90 days. New Orleans has got it down to 24 days as a system. So I strongly encourage using data to drive those results. Additionally, in order to end homelessness for all populations, we really must continue to address the larger structural challenges, like the need for affordable housing, the need to engage mainstream systems, and the need for criminal justice reform. And we're continuing to lead some interagency work with American Indians and Alaska Natives. But a big piece of our work is around engaging communities to reduce the criminalization of homelessness and criminal justice involvement among people experiencing homelessness. And when I was on the call, earlier I heard bits and pieces, and I think Brenda was referring to Housing First. And Housing First applies as a system. And one of the things that we've seen, not only do we think it's the right thing to do, but there is definitely a business case model for this, and ends up being more cost effective, so people are not cycling through the criminal justice system, the shelter system, and other emergency systems in our country. And that is one of the best practices that I cannot encourage as often, more than I can say. Lastly, I think a big piece of our work, which is also challenging, is really to ensure that some of the mainstream systems that address the housing and service needs of all individuals and families experiencing homelessness and housing crises are brought to bear. So I just wanted to, John had asked me, the COC as well, to kind of come talk to you a little bit about the work that we're doing at the federal level. And, I just want to encourage everybody and thank everybody in the room for their leadership on this work and trying to advance the goals locally. We are not able to, provide claims that communities have ended veteran homelessness or even the different progress among chronic and long-term homelessness. We can't do it nationally. It actually we can help set a direction, but the work is actually happening locally. So we won't have those results until communities are having those results. So just want to thank everybody and let folks know that I'm actually a resource for the team if there's any federal questions. If you guys ever need help bringing some of the federal partners to the table there, I would be happy to continue to be a resource to you. So those are my remarks. I don't know if there's any questions. I'm not sure, John, how you want to proceed from here.
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. So if there's questions, but I'll just ask one that's concerned across the country. What's the deal last year with the Continuums? Boy, there were some big cuts. What was the focus on that?
On the Continuum cuts? So I can't respond for HUD, but what I can say is that we have been moving, I think, as a system and for shifting over the years. HUD has been messaging the reallocation of projects from transitional housing to rapid rehousing to help build an effective system. So that is the direction that they have been moving based on some best practices and learnings from that work to move the system forward. And so I think that that it had been it's been being messaged for quite some time, and this year through the application process, they were able to commit to some of that messaging around that work.
Well, I'll just tell you that this community did a lot of work to try and make sure we got those scores. So we hope it'll look better. Do we have questions from the audience? Okay. I think we're good. All right?
All right. Thank you guys. Have a wonderful day. All right. Bye.